So as per each week, I did get a bit of a prompt for today's video, and it came from a viewer. So I had a viewer that also wants to be an expat, or was looking to whether to move in Australia or the Netherlands. And he asked me some questions. So I thought for this one, it might be valuable not only for him to hear the answers, but also for everyone else. And hopefully that also helps people to understand a little bit more how it is to live in the Netherlands, and potentially in comparison to Australia as well, as I continue to push on. So the questions he asked me were, do you continue to feel like an outsider in the Netherlands over the last 3 years? Learning Dutch, was it easy, or is it something that you've done? Do you need it as a part of living in the Netherlands? Do people simply speak English here? And also, what's my overall experience as an expat? And I'll also look at this from a perspective of, if I compare it to Australia, which might be even beneficial for those that are looking at living in Australia versus living in the Netherlands as well. So the first question there is, do I feel like an outsider in the Netherlands? And it's a complex question because there are some days where everything feels so natural, and there are other days where you do feel definitely like out of place. And that's more so maybe around some cultural shocks there as well. So I think the norm for growing up in Australia, whether it's work or if it's taking the kids somewhere, or if it's going to the shops, or just having discussions about the world more broadly, there are those differences as well. And I think as soon as people see that you are from another country, you're generally accepted. So that's probably the really key thing there, is everyone, as long as you're willing to show yourself and be yourself. I think that's a key quality. To be honest, we were at the shop today, and we were at Albert Heijn, which is obviously a common Dutch grocery store. And we had a lady over to the left of us speak to us in Dutch and more or less ask for a bonus card. So a bonus card is for when you pay groceries, you get a discount to be a member. But she didn't have it, so she asked us to use ours, which we're happy to do that. And we had a little chat afterwards as well. We've also been selling some stuff, for example, and everyone's been super kind. We use Marketplaats, which is more or less like the Gumtree version in Australia, or like a Facebook marketplace, but a Dutch version. And everyone is super kind, always very smiley and willing to have a conversation, really want to know about us and why we're in this country as well. So to answer your question, the longest way possible, there are days where, you might be on the train, for example, and something happens and you don't know what's going on. You feel really out of place and uncomfortable. Or if you have to do something different, like, maybe post something. In Australia, there are particular postal, shops that you go to post things. Whereas here, you need to find different sort of outlets that will actually post it. So it might be a phone shop, or it might be, a hardware store or something like that. So really navigating through that, you do feel a little bit uncomfortable, especially when you ask people as well. For them, they don't understand the fact that you haven't had to live this way or something differently. But overall, to be honest, we do feel at home. I think the first year was definitely something that was a big shock because everything was so different and we did feel out of place a lot. But as we hit to year 3, we're becoming a lot more, everything's becoming a little bit more normal. And it's an amazing country to be in, to be honest. So there you go. So that's the first question answered about being an outsider in the Netherlands. The second thing is learning Dutch. So my wife and I have done our best to learn Dutch. We can say a few phrases and those types of things. But it is quite challenging. But we have always tried to make that effort as well. Our kids speak it really, really well. And we are trying to integrate as well. But the Dutch language, for me, and maybe with my Australian accent, I do struggle with it a little bit. And to be honest, I guess the locals here are so welcoming and so easy to converse with as well. So as soon as you try and say something, they can pretty much already pick up that you're not Dutch, and then they'll speak to you in English, and it's an automatic thing a lot of the time. So maybe that answers your second and third question, is that luckily for an expat, English is an accepted language, but it is recommended that you learn Dutch. And I think it's a respect thing, given that you've come into this country, that you do make an effort. And I think generally where you make an effort, they're happy that you're trying. But it's amazing how many people speak English here. And this is from my own experience. So I live in a relatively big city in the Netherlands. So if you look at the Amsterdams, the Utrechts, and the bigger kind of cities where you've got quite an international presence, I think English is definitely something that's easier to get by. If you are going to go to a smaller village and ones that are very much more traditional, there's less of that option, and therefore Dutch is definitely something that needs to be a focal point. But there are plenty of options. The great thing here is that there are local organisations that set up speaking Dutch and sometimes free to really help people to communicate as well, which I think is fantastic. But to be honest, like I said, we can say a few things. I would be embarrassed to say anything right now. However, we've been lucky enough that English has been widely accepted, and that's also helped us navigate through the country. If we compare that to other countries, it's a little bit different. If you go to maybe Germany or France, that might be a bit different, where they are very much generally speaking their own language and maybe a bit of broken English. But the same thing for Australia. Like obviously in Australia, it's very multicultural as well. However, the English is a language that's used. However, if you do go to an Italian shop, for example, you can speak to them in Italian if you want, or etc., etc. So those cultural variations are there with people that maybe have come from another part of the world. But luckily enough, in the Netherlands, speaking English is very much accepted. And that's probably a nice segue even into the office. So in the workplace I work in, I've got an international team. My role is very international, so very global focused. And therefore, as you're speaking to different countries from around the world, English is a kind of standard language that's used. So therefore, I'm able to get away with it as well. So that's actually quite nice. And given my team is international and the focus is global, like I said, English is the primary language in the workplace I work in. But that will depend on your job. So I could imagine there'll be some jobs that Dutch is definitely the language that's spoken, communicated, etc. But if you are really keen, I would recommend getting Duolingo and certain apps to really start trying to practice. And I think with everything, once you practice and if you do come to the Netherlands, using it will really help you to kind of retain that as well. If I look at the overall experience, so I think we've had ups and downs, and I think that's with everyone. It doesn't matter what you do in life, whether you live in your own country, you're moving to a different state in your own country or a different location, or whether you're going to the other side of the world. I think there's always going to be challenges. When we got here, we had to navigate a new schooling system, we had to navigate a new government system, the way everything's set up here, the healthcare system. We've had some really challenges, some big challenges along the way. And I think, as we reflect, and if I reflect in the last 3 years, a bit over, it's been the things that were really hard, we laugh about now, and it's been something that is a fond memory for us. So it could be, cycling, dropping the kids off and nobody telling us that we're going through a code amber or a code red, I can't remember what it was, and it was crazy rain and wind and trees falling down and everything. It was quite chaotic. And when we got to the school, they basically asked us why we rode in and why we didn't catch anything else, given how scary it was. And the purpose of the closing of the school was because of the code that was out there. Even just sort of trying Dutch food and really trying to be immersed in the culture. Jumping on a train for the first time, it breaking down and not knowing what to do. So these are sort of the things that we remember. And at the time it was tough. We felt really like there were days that we wanted to come back home. But the Netherlands is an incredible country. It's close to everything. The people are relatively friendly and welcoming as well, which has been amazing. And it does become more home as the years go on. So definitely recommend it. If I sort of think back about Oz and I compare, they're so similar but so different. The people can be relatively laid back. It depends on where you are in the country, obviously, as well. The work culture can be similar but different in some ways. And as far as accepting, Australia is very multicultural, but cultural, similar to the Netherlands as well. So I think when we kind of compare and when we sort of reflect, even though we have our good and bad, it's been an incredible experience and journey, and we're really looking forward to the years ahead as well. So hopefully this has been insightful for yourself and everyone else that's listening in. As always, like I said, more than happy to answer more questions. If you want me to do a video on a particular topic, more than happy to do that as well. I really like doing this. I'll answer all your comments. If you want to see my videos every week, feel free to subscribe. At least that way you know it's coming. Feel free to hit a like. But I really love doing these. Thanks again for watching in, and looking forward to doing the next one next week. Thanks.